Again, if you're just joining online, please post up in the chat where you're tuning in from. But we want to thank everybody for joining us for the Small Business Boot Camp today on December 5th. We've got a little bit different setup going on here. I am here hosting live from the Arizona Game and Fish Outdoor Recreation Business Summit. And we've got a group in here in the room, and we've got the group online, and our presenter is online. So looks like all the technology is working, but it's not just exciting that we're here doing this combo thing. Oh, I should introduce myself. I'm Robert Theobald. I'm the Small Business Ombudsman and Vice President of Small Business Services and the host of the Small Business Boot Camp. And today's a special day because we hit a milestone in the boot camp. So I'm going to go to the next slide and kind of share that milestone with everybody. This is our 300th boot camp. You see over 130 companies, 224 different presenters, and the previous slide showed this over 17,000 attendees. For those that are not familiar with the boot camp, off the screen. There we go. For those that have not been part of the boot camp started in the pandemic in April of 2020. As a pandemic response, it was incredibly successful during that period, and we continued on because we bring information to help small businesses. And we couldn't do it without our community partners. As you saw, there's been over 224 presenters and 130 companies. This is just a sample of the 130 companies that have been part of the boot camp, and we're very appreciative of their time, their effort, and their willingness to share their expertise with all of you. So the Small Business Boot Camp is a weekly webinar series along with some other programs. So every Tuesday morning from 9 to 10 a.m., we host the webinar, and then we do some occasional workshops or special sessions or lunch and learns to bring information to the small business community throughout the state. That's one reason we do it virtually, is we want to be able to reach all corners of Arizona. And we've been fortunate to have people from other states and even other countries join in some of the sessions. But the goal is to help small businesses prepare, plan, and grow. With that, we have another piece called the Small Business Content Library. So we record all of our sessions and we post them in the content library. And this is the 300th regular session. We have done a lot of special sessions and other workshops and things. So we have about 315 different recorded webinars in that content library. There's no cost to attend the boot camps live. There's no cost to access the content library. And we get the presenters to also share their slide deck, so you can watch the video, download the slide deck, and access that material whenever you'd like, wherever you're at. So it's a great resource available to anyone. So if you know people in other states that can benefit, it's online, it's there. Have them join, have them check it out. It's for everybody that wants to join. The ACA also has a number of other programs to help support small businesses. There's the Career Readiness Credential, the Arizona Innovation Challenge, the Arizona MEP, the Manufacturing Extension Partnership for small to medium-sized manufacturers throughout the state, the Arizona State Trade Expansion Program, AZ STEP, Arizona at Work, and then Small Business Services, which I oversee. And we have the programs I talked about and a few more we're going to share. So one of those programs that I have is called the Small Business Checklist. It's an online interactive tool to help entrepreneurs understand the commonly requested licensing, registration, and compliance needs at the local, state, and federal level. So if you're starting a business and you don't know where to go, what to do, you can go to the checklist and identify the different requirements to start your business. Or if you're an existing business and you're looking to expand into new communities, you can go on there and identify if those communities require you to get a business license or have other requirements that may be necessary. It's an amazing tool. We have a very in-depth checklist on our website. And then also on that web page, we have Sally, our state and local licensing virtual assistant. and Sally can help you with some simpler, quicker questions through the automated chat process. So we also like to share some updates, and there's a couple updates we wanted to share this week that are important as we're wrapping up the end of the year and getting into tax season. So there's a couple IRS things. If you heard in the past that for 1099K, so if you're doing PayPal or Venmo a lot, you're going to get a 1099 from them and have to report those earnings or break out how it is. The IRS announced another hold a little bit on that program for 2023. We're going to post a link to that information so you can get the exact information. And then the IRS also launched a business tax credit program. We're going to post that in the chat. For those live, we can get you that information on a break or something. But online, that'll be posted in the chat. Also, we have 2 more sessions for 2023 after today on December 12th. We have strategically leveraging debt for business growth. That is going to be with our friends at Growth Partners AZ, a local community development finance institution. And then on December 19th, we're going to have build your owner brand with personal storytelling to wrap up the year. So we're excited about those 2 sessions. We'll take a little holiday break and start back on January 9th. And we've got an amazing kickoff to 2024 with our presenters that we have scheduled. So make sure you join us for all those. And if the 9 to 10 a.m. time frame is difficult for you, again, we have a content library, but if you sign up for one of the boot camps, even if you can't attend, it'll get you on our email list. And we send 1 email a week with all the upcoming sessions and other information that relates to small business. So the plug for that piece. So with that, we're going to jump into today's session. We have Clayton Taylor, who's the Director of Organizational Performance at Arizona State University. And so Clayton, I'm going to turn the time over to you. I'm going to stop sharing. And for online, for questions, if you have them, please post them in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, and we'll use the chat for interaction back and forth. So Q&A for questions. And for those that have questions in the room, just if you want to write them down on a note, and we can circle back at the end and ask Clayton those questions. So with that, Clayton, the time is yours.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to present to everybody today. I'm going to go ahead and share my slide deck real quick, and we'll get started here. I was asked to present some information about tools that small businesses can use for organizational excellence. Not currently, but my family did own a small business ourselves several years ago. So I definitely understand that many of the challenges that can be encountered by individuals who are working to move forward with their organization and grow it and turn it into something very viable and very powerful. And there are a lot of tools that we can use for that. Something, though, that we learned very early on, that I've learned very early on about this, is that the desire to do something doesn't necessarily mean that you've accomplished it. You know, having passion doesn't actually mean that you're going to be successful. There are things that we have to do to turn that desire and that passion into the results that we want. Same thing, that just because we're taking action, we're walking through activities, doesn't necessarily mean that we're seeing results. So we need to make sure that the work that we're doing is turning directly into the results that we want in the most efficient and effective way that we possibly can. And the reality about this is that everything's going to start with a strategic plan. And this is the most basic tool that we use. It is something that we use with every organization that we work with. You've got to have an idea of where you want to go and what you want to do. And I suspect many of you have a strategic plan in place. But this is really the fundamental part of doing things well. It's the fundamental part of excellence, because everything that we do when we look at how do we excel and deliver the results that our customers want comes back to our strategic plan. In fact, you can't really build a strong organizational excellence approach. You can't employ the tools effectively unless you know what you're trying to accomplish. So this idea of having a strategic plan is absolutely critical. Knowing where you want to go in the future, that 5-year, that 10-year or further out plan of your vision of what you want to be known for in the future. And of course, your mission, what you're doing day in, day out to get there. Those inform you of your goals. Those tell you what goals you have to have in order to achieve them. And that in turn drives your objectives. And you'll see an example here in just a moment. I'm going to introduce you to a model that actually drives off of those key parts right there, as well as knowing your operational awareness piece, your strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats, knowing what's internal and external to your organization that you need to maximize, take advantage of, that you are doing better than everyone else, as well as those things that maybe you need to work on, mitigate impacts, those types of things. So I'm not going to go through the details on the strategic plan. I said I'm sure that you, many of you have those already, but I wanted to really start out with this idea of the vision, mission, goals, objectives, because those are really what inform everything that we do when it comes down to strategic excellence. And the way we look at this is something through that we call the BOPE model. It stands for Business, Operations, Process, and Individuals. At the business level, at the highest level of your operation of your business, you're looking at what is that you want to achieve. Again, that's that vision, that 5-year, 10-year, 20-year plan that you have, and your mission, what you're going to do day in, day out. And in order to achieve those, you have to have certain goals that you need to accomplish that are in alignment with your vision and mission. Your goals have to drive toward the accomplishment of what you want to do. Beneath that, you have an operational level. And this is what the individual components of your business need to be able to contribute to the larger operational goals. And this could be looking at an individual running a one-person operation. This could be a small business with 20, 30, 50 people. The system that doesn't really care whether or not it's a one-person shop versus something larger. But the idea is that you have operations, things that you need to accomplish, and activities that you need to accomplish. And each of those different elements contributes to completing your organizational goals. And at this point, when you start looking at the operational work that needs to be done, the individual activities that you're doing to deliver products or services to your customers, you have objectives. And this is really where you start taking your goals and breaking them down into their component parts. It's almost like, thinking of it as a roadmap. Your goal is to travel from, say, Phoenix to Los Angeles, and the objectives would be different waypoints and towns and roads that you're going to follow. And as long as you're checking off those objectives, you will achieve your end goal. So when we start looking at this and we start looking at how do we employ tools for operational excellence, we have to know where we're going. We have to know what the goals are and what those objectives are, because those are the things that we're going to actually start focusing our attention on when it comes to organizational excellence. At the process level, these are the activities that you do. It's step 1, step 2, step 3 to deliver a product or a service to one of your customers. This is where the processes have to be effective in delivering the results that your customers want. And they are driven by the objectives that they must complete. So I'm hoping you're seeing that there is some alignment here, that the business vision and mission creates goals for the organization. Those goals then tell the operational elements of what you're doing, what objectives need to be accomplished. And those objectives specifically describe what the process that you do, the work that you do day in, day out, must achieve. And then you've got the individual piece, the individual element, which is the human factor. And these are the resources, knowledge, and skills that you as the business owner bring to the table, as well as the employees that you have working for you, what they bring to the table, and their ability to effectively run the process in a way that will deliver the results that customers want. So when we first sit down with organizations, one of the things that we like to ask are some what we consider critical questions. Asking customers what it is, or asking our clients what it is that they do. And when we talk about this, we're not asking about what physical product or service you deliver. We're asking about the impact of those products and services. So if you are, say, delivering something to a customer that provides satisfaction with adding something to their homes, what you're doing is you're giving them personal satisfaction in enjoying their home and their living environment. If you help somebody accomplish a goal or meet a psychological need, those are the things that we're looking for when we say what is it that you do. So when you start thinking about your business, you want to start connecting it to your customers. And you'll see that when we talk about organizational excellence, everything connects to the customer. Everything drives off the customer. So the first thing we want to look at is, given what I'm producing, given what I'm giving to the people that I serve, what is their end result? What is it that they're getting from this? Not just the physical product or the service I'm delivering, but what need does that fulfill? Then we want to look at how well we do that. In what way are we measuring our performance? In fact, can we measure our performance? Can we capture information about how well we're delivering that end result to the people that we serve? The next thing we want to look at is, do you know where your gaps are? Do you know where maybe you're not necessarily meeting what the customer's needs are? And how big is that gap? How far off are you from delivering the end result that you ultimately want to deliver with your products or services? And at the same time, if you know how large the gap is, you know what kind of gaps there are between what your customers want and what you're doing, now you can make some informed decisions and start closing that gap. And to do that, we need to have a good methodology. And the tools I'm going to be introducing today are based in Lean Six Sigma. And some of the thinking that we're going to be talking about today are based in Lean Six Sigma. And again, the idea is that these are tools that are methods that we can use to evaluate the work that we're doing, to evaluate what our customers need, identify gaps, and then bring systemic change and logical change to the work that we're doing to align our efforts and our results with what the customers expect, with what they want, with what they need, and ultimately give them the best possible outcomes that we possibly can. And as we do this, we want to start by rethinking some quality concepts. There are some outdated views that are out there, and we see this pop up where people say, well, because of the product or service I deliver, the customers come to us because we're the best at delivering that. And the reality is that's an outdated view. When we start looking at why customers interact with us, they come to us because we are able to meet a need of theirs. We're not, just opening shop isn't going to necessarily bring the customers flowing to us. We need to be able to deliver something very specific that the customers want. That's what's going to bring them to us. We also run into situations where everyone looks and says, well, my processes are unique. We're a unique organization, or we deliver a unique outcome. The reality is a process is a series of interactive and interconnected steps with some decision points there. Once you understand how to improve a process, how to streamline, and how to remove obstacles from a process, it doesn't matter if you are offering consulting services, or if you're creating a physical product for somebody, if you're doing retail type work, the processes all function essentially the same thing. You've got multiple steps with decision points in them that lead you to an end result. So even though we are looking at organizations and companies that have a diverse set of outcomes, and yes, they're all unique, once you start understanding process and how to adjust and work with your process to get the results that you want, you'll find that process knowledge is universal. And that's why things like Lean Six Sigma and total quality management, some of these things that we've seen over the years, have been so effective. We also see individuals looking at this and saying, well, you're talking about things like Lean Six Sigma. That's a manufacturing thing. That's for manufacturing companies. And again, the reality is services are no different than manufacturing. You're going through a series of steps to deliver an end result. And so as we kind of start thinking through these outdated views, we start realizing that the reality is we can address an entire value chain. We can ultimately set targets that are going to deliver a very high level of quality and give our customers what they want. But one of the things that I mentioned previously was this idea that we need to have a way of measuring our performance. And this often gets overlooked in the rush to get through just the day-to-day operation and keep everything running. But the reality is we have to kind of know where we stand. And one of the core beliefs that we use when we're looking at process improvement is that we don't know what we don't know. We have to take some time to look around and assess the work that we're doing. And until we do that, until we take the time to look at our operation and provide some focus on what it is our customers are asking us to do and how we're able to meet their needs, we're not going to actually know the answer. We're not going to know what's going on in our own operation to the degree that we need to. And in order to know what's going on, we have to have some sort of metrics. We have to have measurements out there that tell us how well we're doing in relation to what's important to our customers. And that's really a key element there. We measure what we value. In this case, if we don't measure what we don't value, and we don't value what we don't measure. So we have to figure out what it is that's critical to our customers. When they come to us for a product or a service that we're delivering to them, what is important to them? What are they expecting? Is it a certain level of quality? Is it a certain level of satisfaction with the interaction that we're doing? Is it a return on investment? What is it they're asking us to deliver to them? And those are the things we call critical to quality elements. Those are the things that the customers are telling us are important. And those are the things that we also measure in our process. How well are we delivering on those critical to quality elements that our customers are asking for? And as part of this core belief, we can kind of use a scientific approach to solving these problems. And this is a quote that we run into and often use when we're presenting things like process improvement and the need for measurement. And this is coming from William Thomson, who was the first Baron Kelvin. And basically what he's saying here is that if we don't go out and measure something, if we don't put some hard numbers around what's happening in the world around us, in our case, within a business environment, then our knowledge is not as complete as it could be. He says it's a meager and unsatisfactory kind. So in order to really understand things, we have to identify what it is that our customers want, and then figure out from there, how do we measure our impact on those things? And so when we start looking at operational metrics, if I'm looking at my operation, there may be some key things that are going to tell me how well my business is running. And what is my revenue versus the cost that's going on? Capacity and quality. Can I meet the customer's needs? Given what I'm being asked to do in the amount or the volume of work that customers are placing on me, can I deliver and can I meet everybody's needs? And can I do it in a way that meets their expectations, that has quality? Where are my performance gaps? Where are the things that are not working well or that I need to improve or mitigate in my process? Right? And then we also want to look at our operations as well, our employees. Are employees happy? Are they performing like they should? And are they growing and ultimately becoming better assets for the organization? When we talk to our customers, we would be looking at things like, do our products and services meet the expectations that they have? Can we deliver what they want when they want it, and to the location or to the situation that they need it? And ultimately, how are they reacting to the products or services we deliver? So these are just some really high level examples of metrics that we would want to have in place to help us evaluate how well we're performing. Now, as we look at this and we start looking at our customers and we start asking, how well do we do? How good are we at our jobs and meeting our customers' needs? We need to ultimately tweak the way we perceive what good means to our customers. So, we're all exposed, at least here in the United States, very early on to a grading system. The A, B, C, D, F, or E system, depending on where you come from. And the idea is that if you get an A, you're doing really well. And so 90% or better is considered good. It's considered excellent. But if we look at that as a specific measure, we're looking at this being 1 in 10 of everything that we do is actually defective. So 90% is a good mark, but 10% of the time we're not delivering necessarily what the customer wants. And that is not a good way to function. In fact, it's something very detrimental to our business. And over time, organizations realize, 90% really isn't the mark that we want to get. We're not looking for an A. We want to go beyond that. So we're looking at this idea of 99%. If we can deliver what our customers want 99% of the time, then we're going to be doing great. The reality is, even then, you're looking at 1%, right, of being defective. So 1 out of every 100 interactions, you'd have an unhappy customer. You would not be able to deliver or to meet their needs. And so we found that even at 99%, 99% good is not good enough to deliver the levels of satisfaction to make businesses function and to be profitable. And this idea of Six Sigma, and this is something that comes out of Motorola, was the idea that they were shooting for something called Six Sigma value, which was 99.9997% good. The idea is that there would be a very, very remote chance that an error would occur. In fact, it comes out to about 3.4 defects per million opportunities of something going wrong. Now, in most businesses, we don't need to go to that level, but we want to pursue that direction in excellence. We don't necessarily need to be that perfect in everything that we do, but the closer we move towards going beyond 99% effective to being 99 plus means that we're going to have fewer effects on our customers or negative effects on our customers. We're going to be much more adept at meeting customer needs and expectations and ultimately delivering a better result. It's going to be more profitable for us. And that's one of the things that Lean Six Sigma is all about. When we talk about this, people look at it and go, well, it's a process improvement tool. And the reality is Lean Six Sigma was never designed to be a process improvement tool. It was designed as a financial tool. The focus was to put more money on the bottom line by eliminating mistakes, by eliminating wasteful practices like rework, to deliver the right product and service to the customer at the right time and do it right the first time, ultimately giving a better result and being less costly to the organization. I'm just going to give you a quick look at it and some examples here of what that looks like in kind of the real world. That first line up there is looking at mail service from the U.S. Postal Service. This is actually a little bit older. I don't know if the number's exactly the same now. But a few years ago, they were saying that they were delivering 506 million pieces of mail per day. And at a 90% effectiveness, if they were to look at, say, lost mail, at 90%, that means that they would be losing almost 51 million pieces a day. That would be outrageous. It would be completely unacceptable. Even at 99%, they would be losing 5 million pieces of mail per day. So again, be a tremendous loss within the process. Customers would be really unhappy. And if we move towards this idea of Six Sigma, if we start pursuing that 99.9997% effectiveness, now we bring it down to only losing about 100 pieces a day. And given the amount of mail in the country, and if you're looking at 506 million pieces delivered in a day, losing 102 is going to be almost undetectable within the larger organization. And so you can see some different examples here as we look at some different options or different types of service delivery or product delivery that we could potentially encounter in a given day. And we can see the difference between that 90% all the way down to 99%, right? And so as we look at this, we start looking at some things that are what we consider cost support quality. Because every time we don't deliver a result to our customer, there's a cost to us and there's a cost to our customer. So when we start looking at that, this increases our operating costs due to wasteful practices. It means that we now have customers who are unhappy with us. They're coming back. We're having to now rework things or make things right, do customer retention. And ultimately, there's going to be a cost there. We may lose customers. We may see, especially, now with the internet, negative impact with people going to external sites and talking about their experiences. And now instead of telling 10 friends, they're telling 100,000 friends by sending things out on the internet. So the impact on company brand can be disastrous if we don't have processes and we don't implement methodologies that will get us what we need and give us the best chance of delivering the right product and the right service correctly the first time, meeting our customers' needs. And just to give you an idea of what kind of cost we're looking at here, over time, and working with a lot of different businesses, and this is actually coming from Michael Harry, who was one of the creators of Six Sigma. These are his numbers. The organizations that have trained people to use these methods have found that the average performing company sees about anywhere from 15 to about 25% of their revenue is lost due to cost of poor quality. Having to go back and fix things, having to recover customers, those types of things. World-class companies are much lower, about 2 to 15% of the revenue that they are receiving goes into that kind of activity. And you can see over there on the right-hand side, the waste per $1 million. And the way Dr. Harry explained it when he was presenting this information was that money that you see in that waste column, it's the same as taking that cash and literally putting it in the middle of the table and lighting it on fire, because that's how much good it does your business, right? So if you have activities that are not delivering the results that customers want, then you're actually losing revenue because you're having to spend money on recovery and rework and things that are not going to be value added to you and are not going to go to your bottom line. So again, when we start thinking about financial impacts, we start thinking about these, the efforts that we want to make to improve operations for people, or improve results, we have to be able to deliver good results the first time so that we maintain our revenue. With that, before we jump into the methodologies, are there any questions that are out there, Faith, that we can answer?
Thanks, Clayton. There are currently no questions in the Q&A online.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so let's talk about these methodologies. And when we start looking at methodologies, it means we need to change the way we think about how we deliver services, right? And we need to do that because the way that we've thought to get to where we are today, it has put us in the situation we're in. And this is Einstein's comment about the significant problems we're facing today. We can't get out of them by using the same thinking that got us into them. So this is where our concepts like Lean Six Sigma come in. Lean and Six Sigma are two separate methodologies. Lean looks at maximizing value, delivering great value to customers, giving them the results that they want, and doing so very quickly. The approach is to remove wasteful practices, those things that actually eat into our revenue and destroy our profitability. It also looks at reducing the complexity and streamlining our processes so that we can deliver results quickly, meaning that we can deliver more with the resources that we have. And that also drives down our cost per transaction or cost per product. And this is done, again, through adding value. Six Sigma, as I mentioned before, is looking towards achieving perfection and reducing defects. reducing the chance something that could go wrong. And that's done by reducing variability in the process and centering your process on a specific target to deliver results. And the way we do this is something called the DMAIC method, and that's what you're seeing over there under the methodology. It's define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. Define what is going on in your process and what the challenges are. At this point, we're also talking to our customers and asking them what they want. Something we call voice of customer data collection, where we do a deep dive with our individual customers and we ask them about their needs, their expectations. And we use that as a target for what we have to deliver. Again, the customers are telling us what's critical to quality. At the measure phase, we go in and we look at our existing operation the way it is today, the work that we do day in, day out. And are we delivering those results? We want to get a picture of how our processes are operating. From there, we're going to see a gap between what we're doing today and what our customers are asking us. Hopefully it's not a big gap, but it can be. And then from there, we have to ask ourselves, why is it? Why does this gap exist? So we analyze the root causes, the true creators of those problems, those gaps. And we identify very specific solutions that address those root causes and close the gaps over time. From there, after we've improved our process, then we want to lock down our results. That's what we call the control phase. So as we start looking at utilizing Lean and Six Sigma as methodologies for improvement, we want to follow this DMAIC method of thinking to, again, find out what our customers want, find out how we're doing, identify the gaps and the root causes, and then use that to close that gap. So I'm going to scoot through these real quickly here. Lean is really looking at, again, only producing what must be produced and doing so in a way that is highly effective. Six Sigma in and of itself is using data to understand our process and ultimately reduce the variability in our operations so that we are delivering high quality results to our customers in a reliable way. What I want to get to, though, is this idea of waste. And I've mentioned this a few times. From a small business perspective, waste is one of the most detrimental things to our bottom line. Rework, going back and having to redo something that should have been done right the first time, means that we're having to commit more resources, more time, and more effort into delivering what we should have delivered the first time. So the cost of delivering that service or that product is now escalated, and it's taking more away from the revenue that we should be deriving. Overproduction is a risk to our operation because what we're doing is we maybe are producing more than what we should in expectation of future sales. And I'm not talking about having buffer stock. I'm just talking about going out and producing more with the expectation that we're going to be able to deliver more product and the customers are going to come and purchase it from us. If customer needs change or damage occurs, we could lose the effort that we've already put into those results. And ultimately, we're committing resources that we're essentially gambling that someone's going to come and purchase from us. Things like moving stuff around, having people move around the operation in an inefficient and effective way means that we're paying people and we're committing time and resources to activities that don't actually add value, that create form, fit, or function for our customers. Things like delays in our process hold up our ability to deliver what the customers need. And things like idle inventory. Again, we've got material that we have paid for that we are now paying to store, that we may have to move things around just to be able to work in our own office environment, our own work environment. These are things that become a hindrance to us. So idle inventory becomes a problem. And then there's other things too, like unnecessary processing, adding more to a service or a product than the customer actually wants. And in that case, again, we're committing time and resources to delivering something that the customer doesn't have any value for. We look at it as additional bells and whistles, those things that people really want. But the reality is if the customer doesn't want it, again, it becomes a wasteful practice because we've committed resources to it and it's not really adding value at the end. Okay. So when we start looking at streamlining our processes, we want to start looking at some things like this. Where is our process highly complex? Are we doing things in our process that should not be done? Are we adding steps that we feel need to be included in our process that are not adding value to the customer? Again, evaluating your process, you may find that there's what we call hidden processes, activities that are not on your radar, that you don't see as being, or that you don't see it as a part of your process, but again, are actually taking up time and resources. And then things like delays, batch processing, rework, all of these things are elements that we want to look at when we evaluate a process and go in and streamline it. And I'm getting closer to a list of tools that we use for this. But one thing I want to really bring up, and this is probably one of the more important approaches that we use when we're looking at evaluating a process or an operation or a business, is something we call deterministic reasoning, and how that applies to those critical to quality factors. And this in and of itself absolutely has changed the way I see business and the way I see operations in general. And from a Lean Six Sigma environment, what we look at is Y is a function of X, meaning Y is our output. It's the end service or the end product that our customer receives from us. It is what they actually experience. The function of X is essentially your process, the work that you do and the steps that you follow to deliver the results that customers want. And the X's are all the inputs. That's the time and the labor and the machinery. It's the material. It's the employees that you hire. All of those things go together to deliver an outcome. And the reality is you cannot control the Y side of the equation. You can't control outputs. And what we mean by that is once you've delivered a product or service, if it's defective or doesn't meet the customer's experience or their expectations, it's already been delivered. All you can do is go back and fix it, rework it, try and make your customer happy. Again, you're committing more time and resources. So once something's been created by the process or the work that you do, it exists. All you can do is try and make it better. And in this case, we're essentially putting a Band-Aid on something that maybe wasn't right the first time. What we have total control over is our process and the inputs. And this is fundamental to delivering good outcomes the first time, because we have total control over our process. We have total control over the inputs that go into our process. And if we know that our process and our inputs are good and will deliver a good result, then we can be confident that the outcomes that our customers actually receive, their experience with us, will be highest quality. And here's just some examples of a process, and you can just see some different things that would be potentially part of a service experience. Everything in blue there are different elements that could potentially go into the quality of a customer's experience with us. And all of these things are elements that are part of that function of X. So we want to make sure that we're delivering the good results that the customers want. And we do so by controlling all of the things within the process. Now, I mentioned earlier critical to quality characteristics. That's actually a description of that Y side of the equation, the customer experience with the product they receive. And these are the measurable tools, or the measurable elements of our outcomes that we can identify that help us determine, are we delivering what our customers want? So the customers are going to describe to us what it takes for them to say that our product or service was good. They're setting the target for us in a measurable way, and these are the things that we're going to deliver. If we focus on the Y side, again, I said we're essentially putting Band-Aids on things. But by focusing on the function of X side, by focusing on the process itself, we're able to address root causes. We're able to deliver the product right the first time. So how do we do all this? What kind of tools does Lean Six Sigma give us to drive towards making these improvements, to drive towards identifying what's happening in our process, how well our inputs are going together and ultimately delivering results. And there's a pretty large toolkit that we use in the Lean Six Sigma world. And in doing so, this is an example of the tools that we generally teach our Lean Six Sigma practitioners. And so you can see there's a lot of different things that go into this. It's the define phase. We're looking to, like I said, figure out what the problem is in our process. Where are the issues? And we want to be very clear about the process. I can give a good example. One of the first Six Sigma projects I ever worked on, we were told by leadership of a company that we had a customer service issue, that the individuals who were interacting with customers were not providing good customer service, and because of that, revenue was down. So the intention was for us to go in and fix the customer service element of it, teach people to be better at customer service. By evaluating the actual problem and digging into it, we found that when we defined what was going on and we went out and talked to our customers through that voice of customer data collection, that wasn't the problem. In fact, the customers were saying that the service was wonderful. They really enjoyed working with the customers. What they weren't finding useful was that they were not being told how to close the sale. So what was happening is our employees were not essentially leading people to the register to check out. And that's why revenue was down. It wasn't that they were providing poor customer service. It was that they weren't able to close the sale effectively. Now, had we gone with that initial hypothesis that it was a customer service issue, and we had not defined the problem correctly at the beginning, we would have spent a lot of time and effort and money and resources going into improving how people interact with their customers, which was not where we needed to spend that time and effort. But by going back in and working with the employees to help them improve their ability to close a sale, essentially lead people to the cash register, so to speak, we were able to put $2 million on the bottom line that first year. So it was a very useful approach by defining very carefully what our process, or what the situation was and what our customers wanted. As I said, then you want to measure your process. You want to measure how well your operation is actually functioning. And we do that by collecting data and using very basic statistical analysis, averages and medians, standard deviation, to understand how much variability is in our process, and are we able to deliver results that the customers want the first time. We use graphs and charts to analyze the work that's being done and ultimately get a better understanding of the process in and of itself. And this is where we start looking at our metrics. How well are we actually performing? Okay, what do we do? Remember that the first question, what do you do? That's the define phase. What do your customers want and what are you delivering to them? How well do you do it? That's the measure phase. All right, we're taking these tools that you see in this second column here, and we're creating a very clear and realistic picture of our operations. The next thing we do, once we've identified where the gaps might be, where our process is not delivering the results, then we are then able to go in and say, okay, let's find the real reason this is happening. And again, using that example I just gave you, what we found the root cause to be was that we just hadn't done the training. We did not have a training program in place. And that was the root cause of our problem, that we as business leaders had overlooked the needs of our employees to give them the skill set they needed to close a sale. So the root cause, again, was not an employee issue. It was our issue as leaders, having to come in and figure out how we close that gap. From there, there's tools that we can use to develop solutions. How do we close that gap? Are there innovative and unique ways that we can bring the customer's needs closer to what we're delivering? Or sorry, what we're delivering closer to our customers' needs. How do we improve it? What tools can we bring into play to deliver results that people want? And then ultimately, how do we lock down our results? Once we make those changes that give us an advantage that move us closer to delivering excellence to our customers, how do we ensure that we don't backslide and ultimately risk losing our gains? So we put tools in place to monitor our process to make sure that we are staying on target and that we're able to deliver results, and ultimately to get a warning before our process tends to go out of control again and we might potentially deliver bad results to our customers. And we do this through Six Sigma practitioners. And Six Sigma practitioners, people that were trained to do this and to use these tools to close these gaps. The way we evaluate them is we give them martial arts belts. Six Sigma uses belts to describe the knowledge and experience of people who are practitioners. White belts or yellow belts, these initial individuals who are going through and learning about these tools and these methods, usually receive about 1 to 3 days of training. They'll usually tackle 4 to 6 projects a year, generally kind of in their workspace, what we call line of sight. It's what's happening at their desk or just adjacent to their desk and the activities that they do. And usually each of those projects, and again, this is just a kind of an estimate, but we see $10,000 to $25,000 in savings per project, per practitioner. When you move into green belt, which is really kind of the workhorses of the Lean Six Sigma world, this requires about 80 hours of in-classroom training plus a project to be certified. And they're also working on 4 to 6 projects a year. Green belts are assigned to work on projects about 20% of their business time, meaning they've got a regular job that they run during the day, and 20% of their time is also dedicated to improving processes within the larger organization. And these we're seeing savings in the range of $75,000 to $100,000 in savings per project. Black belts are just a more advanced practitioner. They've learned a little bit more as far as some more advanced tools. Master black belts are individuals who are black belts who've been trained to deploy and utilize Six Sigma in organizations. They lead Six Sigma organizations and they train others. Black belts receive approximately 120 additional hours of training, plus they have to complete a project as well. They're running about 4 projects a year, and they are dedicated full time to employing these tools. The savings in this case, again, are approximately about $250,000 per project. This can, again, vary very much depending on the type of business that this is being practiced in and the type of revenues and those types of things that you'd be expecting. In some cases, we find with small businesses, even a savings of $2,000 or $3,000 by improving a process by just a little bit makes a huge impact to the bottom line and the operating potential of the organization. So we want to look at developing individuals who have the skill sets to employ these tools to deliver the results that we're looking for. These individuals within the organization are advocates for excellence. They are focused on delivering good results. They help develop a culture and a common language of focus that keeps people targeted towards how can we do for our customers, how can we deliver what our customers need and do what they need every time, right? They identify issues and performance gaps. They actively go out and find problems and challenges and opportunities for improvement, and they fix them. And then they apply these tools. They go out and they talk to the customers. They collect that information from them. They look at the process. They follow that DMAIC cycle, and they employ these tools to streamline, to reduce variation, to deliver a consistent outcome to the customers, and do so in a way that delivers the results that are going to be what the customers want, and do it in an efficient and effective way for the business so that we're maximizing the revenue that comes back into the organization. For those of you who are interested in learning more, if you'd like to learn more about Six Sigma, Arizona State University does offer yellow belt, green belt, black belt, and master black belt training. On the screen here, I've got some examples of some classes that are coming up, starting at the first of the year. You can see we've got a few starting in January for the Yellow Belt class. This is an online self-paced program. We do also have a hybrid program where the individuals going through that also spend some time with me after they've gone through the class, and we do some hands-on activities and actually apply the tools to some examples. It's a good way to really kind of get a feel for what is Lean Six Sigma and how would you apply it to your specific business. If you're interested in going a little bit further, you want green belt training or black belt training, we do also have those programs out there. Our next green belt programs are coming up. Again, you can see we've got some starting in January, February, and March. And this is where we go into that deep dive on that set of tools that I just showed you a few minutes ago. How do we walk through the DMAIC cycle in detail? How do we really dig in to understand what our customers want? What are the tools? How do we collect that information? How do we make sense of it and turn it into something value added? And then ultimately, how do we measure our process and turn that into a solution that's going to make us more effective and more profitable? With that, I know we've only got a couple more minutes. Are there any questions for me that you might have that I can answer for you?
All right, everybody online, if you have questions, post those in the Q&A. Do we have any questions in the room? Scott? A quiet group. You answered all their questions, Scott or Clayton.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. You know, as I mentioned, you know, my family used to own a small business in Memphis, Tennessee. We were customized packaging and shipping for various organizations within the city. And it was a 3-person shop. And we applied tools like this to ensure that we were eliminating waste so that we weren't overrunning our costs. We weren't using more material than we needed. We were delivering great customer service. We used all of these tools to ensure that we were able to deliver the results that our customers wanted. That's ultimately what made us into a profitable small business.
All right, Clayton, we got a question here in the room, so go ahead.
Sure.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your presentation. I also want to thank you for making this so easy to understand. I really appreciate you being succinct and just appreciate your time with this. Very interesting to me. I teach leadership training, so this gives me a whole new view on it. So I just really appreciate your time.
You're welcome. I'm glad I was able to deliver some value to you.
Then we had a question that says, can you go back to the slide that gives the yellow belt training cost, please?
Absolutely. The cost for the online program just in and of itself is $99. Like I said, it's an online self-paced program. The hybrid program is $199, but again, that's also spending a half day working with me as a part of the yellow belt cohorts. There may be others involved. And we actually take the tools that you learned in the class and apply them to some examples so that you can get some hands-on experience with an instructor who can help you out. The reason we refer to this as yellow belt is because we do give you, we say 6 tools that you can take back and use immediately. It's actually more than that. It's more along the lines of 12 different tools that you can immediately go back and apply. We do things like process mapping, getting a better understanding of your process and defining it, and then ultimately looking at things like root cause analysis. What tools can we use to evaluate the gaps, and then some strategies for developing solutions and closing those gaps.
Excellent, Clayton. Appreciate that. We are right at time and we do have a hard stop today, but we want to thank you for being here for our 300th webinar. If you have questions, you may have gotten an email from me reminding you this morning of the Zoom. You can respond to that and I will get back with you. If you have questions that you wanted to ask Clayton, you can send it to me and I'll get them to him so we can get you those answers. For those in the room, if you have questions, get with me and we'll get those sent over as well to Clayton and get those answered. But we want to thank everybody for being with us today. We hope to see you next week on our next boot camp. But until then, everybody have a great week and we'll see you soon. Thank you.